Hello, everybody. Welcome to Let's Talk Football. My name is John Halpin, alongside Chris Palma. Chris Palma, how you doing today, my son?
Doing good, man. Another week in the books. A lot of really good games, a couple of head scratchers, some questions to leave the week with. But overall, good week.
Yeah, it was a very great week of football, but let's get into our week two recap. But let's be honest, not all of it was great. Starting with the Thursday night game, Buffalo Bills against the Miami Dolphins. The Bills won 31-10, but the bigger story is Tua suffered another concussion. This was a terrible, terrible situation. And we hate to be talking about Tua and concussions regularly, but we hope that, man, for his health's sake, we hope all the best for him.
Yeah, for sure. Three concussions in 2 seasons. Um, Really not a good look. To a hope you really take this into consideration. You are not 30 years old, so remember, it's just a game.
Yeah, we're going to be talking more about Tua and the Dolphins later on in this episode. But let's move on to Sunday's slate of games with the San Francisco 49ers and the Minnesota Vikings. And the Vikings coming out with a strong win, 23-17. But again, this was another game where some big stars got injured as well. Deebo Samuel from the 49ers got injured, as well as Justin Jefferson got injured late in the fourth quarter. Um, you hate to see a lot of players get injured in general, but especially early on in the season too.
Yeah. You forgot to mention George Kittle also.
Oh,
He
that's right.
fractured his
Yes.
rib. He fractured his arm.
Hmm.
Um, didn't Jordan Addison also get hurt?
I think so too.
You know, this game is a vicious game, and that's the ugly side of this game is that you can see big injuries early, but good hard win. It's almost like a statement win for Sam Darnold in Minnesota. He
Yeah,
looks good in the Vikings uniform.
he does look very good in a Vikings uniform. Let's move on to the Seattle Seahawks and the New England Patriots. This was a Super Bowl 49 rematch from many, many years ago. But the Seahawks came on top in overtime with a victory over the Patriots, 23-20. This was a really solid game for both teams here.
Yeah, good outing, good strong outing. Very impressed with what's going on with these new Patriots with Jerome Mayo at the helm. Very aggressive, and they get after it. Good game to watch.
Oh, absolutely. And let's move on to the New York Giants and the Washington Commanders. Another solid game, very low scoring, but the Commanders pulled the win at the end, 21-18. Jaden Daniels, he looked very good in this game against the Giants.
Yeah, this was definitely a good game to watch. Good format game for Jaden Daniels. Um, you know, Giants have a lot of problems. The Commanders still have problems, but I think Jaden Daniels um, could be interesting moving forward.
Yes, we'll definitely keep an eye on him and the Commanders going forward this season. Let's move on to the Los Angeles Chargers going to Carolina to play the Panthers, and this was all Chargers all day, 26-3. Man, what's going on in Carolina, bro?
There's a lot going wrong, but moving forward, Andy Dalton will be quarterback number one. Bryce Young has been benched, but another good hard win for the Chargers. They are going to keep moving from what it looks like.
Yes, they are just going to keep moving forward, and there's going to be a lot of questions with Carolina going forward. Um, Going down south to Dallas, Texas, where the Saints came marching in to play the Cowboys and won 44-19. This was a really big upset this past week, but man, the Saints and Derek Carr, they are just rolling.
Well, we think Sam Darnold looks good in a Vikings uniform. Derek Carr looks really good in a Saints uniform, and
Hmm.
Alvin Kamara seems to have totally revived himself. Good win for the Saints. Another statement win on the week.
Oh yeah, keep your eye on the Saints because they have a lot to offer this NFL season. So let's definitely keep an eye on them going forward. Moving on to Green Bay up north, where the Packers took on the Indianapolis Colts, and the Packers won 16-10. But obviously, this is Malik Willis. This is his first win in the NFL, so it was a good, solid win for him. Low-scoring affair, kind of what we thought. I thought the Colts would put up a little bit more of a fight, but they just got to give credit to that Packers defense. They just halted them to 10, and honestly, you can't ask for anything better from a defense.
Yeah, you can't ask for more from Green Bay, but you can ask some more out of the Colts because this is two games where they've shown signs that they can be great, but they come up short at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of expected more from them. Didn't really expect much from the Packers, but a good game nonetheless.
Solid game. Moving on to Jacksonville with another surprising upset. The Browns beating the Jacksonville Jaguars 18-13. And again, these are not high-scoring games, but they are still great games to watch nonetheless. But this was a big, big upset, and the Jags now fall to 0-2.
Yeah, being 0-2 in the AFC in such a locked conference is not a good look, and it's not an easy one to shake.
Oh, you're telling me, brother. But man, good win for the Browns. We'll be talking more about the Jags next week. So let's move on to Tennessee, where the Jets and Aaron Rodgers took on the Tennessee Titans and came away with a win 24-17. Aaron Rodgers' first win as a New York Jet.
The score is very deceiving. If you watch that game, Aaron Rodgers struggled for 3.5 quarters.
Yeah, he did.
So let's not get ahead of ourselves. That again, there's no expectations for the Titans, and from what you can really watch that game, if you watched it, the Jets are falling short of every expectation.
Yeah. I know at some point in time we're gonna be talking Jets.
Jets at some point.
Yeah, but hey, at least they got a win under the belt, and now they have a short week. They play this Thursday night against the New England Patriots prime time. So all eyes will be on Aaron Rodgers and the Jets once again. Let's move on to quite possibly what could have been the game of the week. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Detroit Lions in an absolute slugfest. The Buccaneers came away victorious 20-16. Again, not a high scoring game like we saw in the divisional round, but man, this was still a great game to watch. Baker Mayfield, this may be the best season of Baker Mayfield that we've seen so far. He's been absolutely unbelievable.
I can't help but agree with you. This is my game of the week, but when it comes to all these low-scoring affairs, these are the games that I feel are good for football. Let's move away from the high. You like to see the high-scoring games, but every so often you like to watch two teams just punch each other in the mouth for 4 quarters, and it's not going to be high, but whoever has the highest score is going to win, and everybody's going to be in pain after. And that's what this entire weekend was.
Oh yeah, man, this was such a great game to watch. If you were not able to watch it, please check out the highlights on YouTube. They are it's such a great game, and I hope we get to see this again in the playoffs going forward. That would be so great to see. Let's move on to Baltimore. Speaking of 0-2 teams from a little while ago, the Baltimore Ravens now fall 0-2 against. We lost to the Las Vegas Raiders 26-23. Had a 10-point lead and blew it in the fourth quarter. We've heard this story so many times before.
Believe it or not, haven't heard the story of the Ravens being 0-2 in almost 10 years.
Yeah.
2015 was the last time you guys started 0-2.
I remember that season.
Unfortunately, you guys finished 5-11 that year.
I thought it was 4-12, but no, I think you're right. 5-11.
5-11.
Yeah.
Once is an anomaly, twice is a pattern. Let's hope you guys can gear up for this week.
Man, we're going to be talking a lot about the Ravens. They got a tough matchup against the Dallas Cowboys week 3. Moving down to Arizona, where the Cardinals took on the Rams, and the Cardinals came out victorious, and not only that, it was a statement win, 41-10 over the Rams. Man, Rams fall to 0-2. That's going to be, again, another team falling to 0-2, and the playoff race is still very narrow. Rams are NFC, though, but It's still in that conference. You don't want to be 0-2, but the Cardinals looked very good. It looks like Kyler Murray's having a lot of fun with his new weapons.
It looks like him and Marvin Harrison Jr. have formed a well-spoken bond. But when you look on the other side of LA, the absence of the linchpin that was Aaron Donald is starting to be felt.
Yeah, his absence is huge so far. Let's move on to Kansas City, where the Chiefs took on the Cincinnati Bengals, and really close game, very dramatic game. Chiefs come away with victorious 26-25. Mahomes, had enough time at the end. There was pass interference by the Bengals. Ugly call. Is the ending was a little sour, but the game itself, it was a very well played game. But Patrick Mahomes actually struggled mightily in this game. He had the one pass to Rashee Rice, and aside from that, the Bengals really had his number the rest of the game. So good on to the Bengals. They just seem to play the Chiefs very well.
Yeah, they seem to be a very well even matchup every time they face each other. So it's always it's going to be competitive. Little interesting to see how much Patrick Mahomes struggled. So with being who he is and how he works as an athlete. Another controversial call for the win is not a good look. Get a lot of controversial wins under the Chiefs' belt.
A lot of them with flags in the fourth quarter, man. That's it's very upsetting to see. But man, the Bengals, they're another one of those teams where they're a good team that's just 0-2, and they're just in a bad situation, just a rough start to the season. So Cincinnati, I think, who do they have next week? They have Washington next week. So that looks like a game that they'll
be a come-around game for them.
Get back on track too. So let's move on to the leaders of the AFC North, the Pittsburgh Steelers, now 2-0, and with a win over the Denver Broncos, 13-6. Chris Palmer, your thoughts on this game?
This was a much better game offensively for us. We figured out how to put the ball in the end zone. I'm going to give a shout out to Darnell Washington for getting his first touchdown as a tight end. I'm happy we're actually using him in the receiving core, at least a little bit, versus just a blocking tight end. Moving forward, I feel like there are still improvements that need to be made, of course. But, 2-0, move on to week 3, feed the hot hand, keep Justin Fields on the field.
Absolutely. Moving on to the Sunday night primetime game, the Chicago Bears and the Houston Texans, and it was a lot closer of a game. It was a lot low-scoring affair. Texans came away victorious, 19-13. Man, CP, I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts on this game? We didn't get a chance to talk about this off air.
We never really spoke about this game. The Texans played down to the Bears level. That's what I watched. Again, Caleb Williams is unimpressive to me. It's another outing where he was just unimpressive. The team looks impressive. Defense looks impressive. On that Chicago defense looks impressive. That team is ready to win. I don't know that Caleb Williams is ready to learn.
I think, honestly, I like your take on that. That's a great way of putting it, too, because you and we spoke about this earlier off air. Quarterbacks need time to develop, and it's not fair to them where, there's so much high expectations and they're starting immediately. Because a lot of the great quarterbacks, a lot of the successful quarterbacks had time to develop and had some grace period to kind of learn and study. And it seems that with Caleb Williams, it's again, high expectations right out the gate from college and from the NFL. And it's not fair to him because the NFL is a different beast than college. And that's why a lot of, successful college players don't always translate into great NFL players. The ones that do stand out. But I think what made this loss very bitter for the Bears is that for most of the game, the score was 16-10. It was still a winnable game with just one good drive. And they just could not muster up one good drive at all later in the game. And that was very upsetting to see.
Yeah, and something that was like kind of mind-boggling to see was at the end of the game, CJ Stroud was walking over as teammates do to go and shake the hand of the other team. CJ Stroud walks over to Caleb Williams. They try to exchange words, and the entire time that CJ Stroud's trying to exchange words with this man, he's trying to walk away. So, are you unwilling to take any type of advice from anybody, even if it's just keep your head up and keep it moving? Like, you got to be in times of loss, you got to be humble. So, and CJ Stroud is an impeccable superstar. He is someone, if he's willing to give you any shed of advice, you should want to take that, even though he's only a year above you.
100% too. I completely agree. And CJ Stroud, he's a student of the game, so
Right. You have to be.
he's always like watching new players, old players, current players. He's talking with them. He's hanging out with everyone. He just like he has embraced himself in the culture of football. And obviously, win. It's great to win, but obviously, you can't win them all. And he's had some tough losses in his rookie year. And I think that's like, hey, look, to not take advice from him is very dejecting to see, and very. I hope that is just a one-time thing, and I hope that over time, Caleb and the Bears can grow. But we'll keep an eye on Chicago going forward, man. But it's not looking too good for in Chicago so far. Um, but let's move on to the final game of Week 2. This could have been also the game of the week as well. The Atlanta Falcons and Kirk Cousins upsetting the Philadelphia Eagles 22-21. My God, what a dramatic game and great win for the Falcons.
I watched this game for about 3.5 quarters until I fell asleep. And knowing what the Eagles were capable of, I went into it with an open mind. I said it last week. I think the Falcons were going to take this one. While I'm watching this game, I catch myself noticing the change in the Atlanta Falcons. They have evolved into one of the strongest zone run offenses I have ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to a defense, I haven't seen a defense swarm to a ball carrier for 4 quarters straight, or 3.5, in a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
I think Atlanta has arrived. I know that's saying a lot, but I think finally we're going to get a full-fledged Atlanta Falcons team.
Honestly, that'd be so great to see. And remember that division right now, a lot of teams are really starting hot. So it's the Falcons with a big win, the Saints, the Buccaneers, and then the Panthers. But the Panthers are, but like those three teams, the
right.
NFC South is coming out
is
strong.
A 3-team division again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's cool to watch.
It's so great to see. Such a great thing for football, man. So that is it. That is our Week 2 slate of games. What a great Week 2. And we have a really good Week 3 ahead of us. We hope that a lot of questions are answered going forward. And what do we mean by that? We want to start talking our first game, and that's with the Miami Dolphins and the Seattle Seahawks. Now, originally, we were supposed to have our boy T on as our guest, but it just didn't, wasn't in the cards today, and that's okay. Well, we hope to have T back on later on in the season to talk some more Dolphins, but it seems appropriate to talk Dolphins here because of just how last week transpired. But I'll CP, I'll have you start this one off with Dolphins Seahawks.
Well, obviously the big notice in the room is no Tua. Skylar Thompson is going to be at the helm for the Dolphins. Again, the only thing that really comes to mind is just overall player safety, and Tua, as much as his drive is to play, it's noticed. Everyone notices your drive to play. You want to play. You feel the hunger that you need to play. Your body is not agreeing with you that you should be playing. So I hope, even though the relationship that Brian Flores has with Tua, I hope he understands that he is not just a quarterback, he is a human being, he is a father, he is a son.
Mhm.
And that even if Tua comes to him and says, I'm good and I'm ready to go in, I hope you use your sense of morality and say, maybe you don't go in right now.
Mhm.
Maybe you take an extra week because everybody needs you outside of this game.
Well, I will say Tua was placed on IR, so now the earliest week
It's
he can
4
come
weeks from
is actually week 8. He comes
now.
back.
Oof.
He's able to come back. So the Dolphins are going to be without Tua for a good long
I
while.
didn't see that. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hope again you take that time to recuperate fully and do not come in less than 100%.
Mm-hmm.
As for the Seahawks, I like Geno Smith on the Seahawks, and that defense is really growing as a pass rush too. So Skylar Thompson's going to have issues
Mm-hmm.
moving forward.
Yeah, that's. Let's start with the Dolphins, right?
Good.
Again, player safety too. We hate that this is a reoccurring theme, and I completely agree with you. Some people's bodies are just more predisposed to a certain type of injury, right? Like if you have one head injury, right, you're more susceptible to head injuries. If you have just like people's body, because everyone's body's different, right? If you have shoulder problems, you're going to be susceptible to shoulder issues, right? Knee issues, etc., etc. Tua is his body just has that predisposition to concussions, man, and it's on these big stages, and it's like when you look at how he got injured too, it's not like it was a vicious hit by a defender. No, Tua ran, and he leaned his head forward into the Damar Hamlin's chest. I mean, it's just
It writes
it
itself.
really just writes itself, honestly. But it's the two most fragile things in the NFL colliding with each other.
Right.
Tua's head and Damar's chest, just right there. And it didn't have to be like this. It really didn't. And when you're a quarterback, right, and you're running for the first down, and obviously, like, he was pressing, he felt like he needed to get extra yards because it was a blowout at that point, and he needed to come back. But it's like you shouldn't forego your own safety for the sake of the team. And I know, like, that's he's the leader of the team and everything like that. It's like, but the man under the helmet is the same person who puts on the helmet, and he's just as important of a person. And I hope he takes this time. And a lot of people are talking about retirement. Like that's the big question of Tua is like, should he retire at this point? And it's upsetting because it's like he's so young. He has a great, you know, he could be a great quarterback right on the field, but obviously he has a life outside of football. But ultimately, it is his decision. And I think that whatever he decides going forward, we as the audience, we have to respect that, and we have to understand where he's coming from with that too. If he were to walk away right now after his contract signing, he would have $125 million guaranteed. So money is not an issue. And I think for his sake, this is why players want these guaranteed contracts. So that in a instance just like this, like Tua, if he decides to retire right now, be like, the doctors are telling me I cannot play anymore, then I need to go. He's still set for life, and that's perfectly fine because he put his dues and put his work into the league, and the league rewarded him as such. But that's the big question: is retirement for Tua. I hope that he makes the right decision for himself, and and again, we hope Tua, you and everyone who's injured, we hope you all a speedy recovery. Um, that's where the starting point. Now let's put Tua to the side right now because you and I we want to talk about this game. because there's still games to be played. The NFL, like, despite
The
all
show must go on.
despite all the injuries that happen in the league, games are played. Roger Goodell said, I'll die on a hill before I fucking cancel a game due to COVID. We're gonna have a Tuesday night football game. We had a Tuesday night football game because of reschedules. Games are gonna be played. Games are gonna be played regardless, unless you're DeMar, and you know, that's neither here nor there. Dolphins, man, I think as a team, their defense, they miss a lot of their key defensive players. Xavier Howard, Christian Wilkins, Van Ginkel. They are missing a lot of players that put in a lot of hard work in the Dolphins over the years, because last year that defense really clicked. It really clicked. Obviously, this is only 2-game sample size, but man, to make the Bills go up and down the field very easily. And Tua, obviously, he did not have a great game. He threw 2 interceptions, not great. Gave them short field, and Bills capitalized. But man, the defense just it's struggling, man. It's really struggling. I hope that they're able to get into a rhythm. But the Seahawks offense, it's in full rhythm. It's been in full rhythm for so long. And I'm curious to see how that Miami offense is going to look without Tua, because it is very night and day with Skylar Thompson versus Tua. Like, he's part of that engine, right? Obviously, he's not without his flaws as a quarterback, right? But he is leagues better than Skylar Thompson. And I feel for Thompson, because it's like, you have like the keys to a Maserati, right? But it's like you don't know how to drive. You don't know how to drive it, so, right? It's you have some of the best offensive weapons. You have Tyreek Hill, Hall of Famer, Hall of Fame fucking wide receiver. Jalen Waddle, absolutely amazing number 2. He'd be a number 1 on any other team. You have Devon A-Chain. I know everyone says his name weird, but I'll say A-Chain. And who is actually putting in a lot of fucking work, despite they also have Raheem Mostert, who also tied Christian McCaffrey for touchdowns last year. But A-Chain, they're going, like, he's the running back 1 this season. And as he should be, because he is such a versatile back. He's such a versatile back where he's able to just, catch the ball, run the ball, speed, power. He can do it all, and he's extremely impressive. So the Seahawks defense, if Skylar Thompson can get into a rhythm with this offense, the Seahawks defense will bend, but I don't think they'll break, because that defense is really, really putting in a lot of hard work, man. I like a lot of the personnel on defense for the Seahawks, but they're not without their flaws, right? They're not, like, sometimes they can miss tackles, sometimes they can get a little too aggressive. They're great players. I love to see them play, but sometimes, they're flawed players, right? Obviously, no one's perfect. But I like these matchups, man. I like the Seahawks defensive matchup against the Miami offense. Flip the script too. That Seahawks offense is, who do you stop? Like, who do you stop Tyler Lockett and leave DK Metcalf wide open? Do you double coverage DK, keep Tyler Lockett, or do you just let Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker? Unfortunately, Kenneth Walker's injured as well, but Zach Charbonnet just tear it up in the run game. It is, and Geno is absolutely lights out. His stats, what was it? Do I have his stats from last week? Yeah. So last week against New England, he went 33 for 47, 327 yards and 1 touchdown. The Seahawks are so confident in Geno, they're willing to let him throw it 50 times to win a game. And it's like
a beautiful thing.
That is a lot to ask for your quarterback, but they trust him. And as they should, because he was 33 for 47. In week 1, he went 18 for 25. That's pretty fucking solid for a quarterback. 171 yards, or one touchdown, one interception. Obviously, it could be a little bit better yards wise, but like efficiency. Like Gino has been so efficient these first two games that I'm very concerned about this Miami defense if they're able to stop Seattle. And keep in mind, this is also in Seattle too. That is one of the toughest places to play.
Well,
One of the toughest.
let's not forget this is how Seattle ended the year last year.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about Geno Smith and how he was moving that Seattle offense. He has found a rhythm in Seattle,
Mm-hmm.
much like Baker Mayfield found a rhythm in Tampa. We're watching these quarterbacks, like we were saying earlier, when it comes to historically the lack of development, quarterbacks that were forced into a bad position from the jump. Geno Smith is on that list.
Mm-hmm.
He was put into two situations, if not more, before landing in Seattle that were simply impossible for him to come out of. On the Jets and the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
Nearly impossible situations. And now you're in what? He's in what, year 9? Has to be
year 10, actually, because he was drafted in 2014.
So year 10.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're seeing him take his stride. So think about the development that it took. It took him almost 10 years to develop into the quarterback that people thought he was in college. Same thing with Baker. He's in year 7. Has to be year 7 or 8 now.
They were drafted 2018, so this is his 6th year.
Year 6. Took him 6 years. With all these young quarterbacks, because they're still young, the lack of development is showing to where it takes 10 years for them to form into the quarterback that they're going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Geno Smith, my hat's off to you, man. You, on your second half of your career, are showing you are truly capable to bring a team places.
Absolutely. And it's funny, too, because I'm looking at this. I'm looking at Geno Smith, and I'm looking at just like the pattern of the league right now, right? In a lot of the AFC, there's the young quarterbacks that are brought up with their teams. Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Lamar, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? Herbert, Lawrence, Stroud, et cetera. In the NFC, we are seeing a lot of the teams where it's like their quarterbacks are ones that are giving second chances. And just prime example. I'll just give you a few offhand. Jared Goff, Matt Stafford, Baker Mayfield, Derek Carr, Sam Darnold so far, and Geno Smith. A lot of these guys have had careers and then have just stayed in the league, and then or at least for Geno, he stayed in the league, and then now he's blooming into the quarterback that everyone thought he would. And like you and I, we spoke before, it takes time to develop quarterbacks. Not everyone, the norm of quarterbacks being fresh out the box, hot, amazing, right? It's not common. I mean, we have seen it, right? But it's not historically common. Like, yes, Josh Allen, he took like about 2 years to develop, and then he got a rhythm. Lamar, his first year was rough, and then good. Mahomes, he was fresh out the box, right? He was fresh out of college, put up 50 touchdowns his first starting year, but he did sit 1 year. He did have that 1 year he did sit. Jordan Love sat for 3 years, and yet we all have high expectations for the Packers because of how well he played in his first starting year. And you look at Baker Mayfield. Sometimes you just need to fit, right? And I think a lot of these quarterbacks that we see moved from place to place to place, we shouldn't get discouraged and say this is the end of it, right? Because now what's really happening is a new trend is happening where a lot of second chances are happening. And it's so great to see because now it's like seeing their full potential of what we wanted them to be in previous situations, but they weren't set up for it, right? Like, let's be honest. In 2014, Todd Bowles was the head coach of the New York Jets. They just drafted Geno Smith to replace Mark Sanchez and Rex Ryan, right? Fast forward 10 years later, right? Geno's a journeyman for a little while. Todd Bowles, he goes under Bruce Arians, who, he was undercoached. And then once Bruce Arians stepped down, Todd Bowles is now head coach of Tampa Bay, where, and he's like, hey, Brady retired. I need a quarterback. Baker, actually, Todd Bowles, he's a very soft-spoken guy. So he's like, hey, Baker, you want to come by? You want to come by over here? We'll treat you nice. And that's the thing too. Is like exactly what we've been saying with Baker, with Jared Goff, with Matt Stafford. They all fit their culture. They all fit their team, and their team has embraced them. And it's so great to see these second chances be given out to these quarterbacks. Geno is a prime example where it's like you can't hate the guy. Like there's like if you're a football fan, right? Unless you're like a 49ers fan or something like that, you hate Geno, right? But other than that, it's like if you're just like a casual fan, it's like he's a good guy. That's a good
It's
football
fun to
player, right?
watch.
He's fun to watch. He does exactly what he needs to do. And there's something to be said about that. There's something to be said about making the ordinary look like the amazing look ordinary, right? And that's
Right.
Brady. Brady did that for years, right? And now it's like Geno, he's good where it's like he doesn't really need to be flashy because at the end of the day he's sitting 2-0 right now. Seahawks are leading the division right now, which is fucking wild.
Well, again, he's like a fundamentalist. He
Yep.
doesn't need to do anything
Mm-hmm.
flashy.
Yep.
Focuses on what he needs to do, reads his progressions thoroughly,
Mm-hmm.
and then gets the ball to his stars.
Yep.
That's all you need to do is get the ball to your stars in a timely fashion.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to do it any type of flash. And again, we as fans, we kind of like, again, like you said it best, like we try to normalize the elite.
Mm-hmm.
When the normal is Matt Stafford or lower, probably way lower,
I would say the normal now
is probably Baker Mayfield.
is probably Baker Mayfield, probably Geno Smith, probably Jared Goff,
Right.
probably all those guys. There is
Those
probably
are
like
run of the mill
that's the
good
standard.
quarterbacks. That's what the standard is. And people don't like looking at the standard because they're looking across the fence and they're seeing Patrick Mahomes, who is the ace. You're looking at Lamar Jackson, who is an ace. You're looking at Jordan Love on the first starting season where he is officially an ace. He sat for 3 years, but he's an ace.
Mm-hmm.
You want an ace, and when you don't get it, it's on to the next.
Mm-hmm.
And on to the next. And it's not good, the development of the game. It dumbs down the game.
I want to give you an example, prime example of a quarterback that probably very standard, surrounded by a bunch of talent, but has been embraced by the team he is, and the team trusts him to lead them into the playoffs. That's Brock Purdy.
Absolutely.
And honestly, I think a lot of teams would be like, yeah, we take Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's kind of the standard, right? He's kind
does
of
his
that.
job.
He does exactly. He does the fundamentals, and over time we've been actually seeing the development of Brock Purdy too. Like obviously this is going to be another year, another challenge for him as well, but obviously high expectations because 49ers are like they're in win now mode. They want to win now. But there is a prize or to patience. And I think that we see this now in today's league where it's like teams that are patient enough with quarterbacks will reap the benefits of their success.
I agree with you 100%. I feel like that just trickles down to a lot of things when it comes to wanting instant gratification.
Mm-hmm.
You want to win now. You want a great quarterback now. You want, in terms of football specifically, you want to have a great team now. Everyone wants a great team, but no one's willing to trudge through the shit and make a great team. we're not going to sit, instead of sitting and watching a quarterback develop, waiting a couple of years and realizing he's not the guy. A lot of these quarterbacks are getting dumped still on their rookie deal. And it's, how can you expect them to do that when they're still not old enough to drink? They're 19, 20 years old coming into a league with 35-year-olds,
Bryce
27,
Young was
28-year-old
benched.
men. Bryce Young was benched.
It's
These one-off college. You and I spoke about this a couple of years ago off air when they started saying that you only needed 2 years of college to go into the pros, and then they trickled it down to 1 year where you could do 1 year in college and then go into the pros. It's too young. In my opinion, you got to do at least 3 years of college ball before being able to put your name into the draft. That's my opinion.
Well, I mean, if that was the requirement, Caleb would pass that requirement because he had 3 years.
Yeah, he came in as a junior.
Yeah, I think honestly, that fourth year of college needs to be. I think that is very vital in the development as a
Your
player.
senior year is huge. Yeah,
It's huge, and I don't think that we shouldn't rush a lot of college players into the league when they're not ready for it. Obviously, yeah, you want to be in the league, right? You want to play in the NFL. You want to be ready for the big stage, right? But sometimes the stage isn't ready for you, and you need to do some studying, and you need to learn the game better to be a better player, so that when the time does come, that when you're ready to be on that stage with the lights are bright and you got millions of people watching you across the nation, that you're able to perform you at the best level that you're able to perform, and knowing that it's like, and full confidence where it's like, no, I did this for 4 years, I know what I'm doing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to have that idea of going into this, I am at a professional level. You can't go into the pros mentally at a college level. And when you're going into the pros at 21 years old with 8 games of college ball under your belt, you barely have a college mentality. You're going in with a varsity mentality. You
And
may have been the best guy on your college team, but you may not make it past cuts in the pros because of who you are.
mm-hmm.
Your name doesn't get you anywhere in the pros. You're a nobody.
And you know who played 8 games and still got drafted in the first round? Trey Lance.
He's an upsetting story because he is one of the prime examples of a failed football program in college.
And underdevelopment.
An
And
underdevelopment.
over expectations too.
Correct. Over expectations, underdevelopment. You wrap that all in a bow. You have what was Trey Lance. Trey Lance and what could possibly be Caleb Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's now thrown into an impossible situation. He has 3 years of college ball. He has an ego a mile wide. But Trey Lance is upsetting because he wasn't given the chance to develop. He could have developed into a really good quarterback. But he was thrown into San Francisco with already another quarterback breathing down his neck if he was not going to play well.
Mm-hmm.
So he already knew his job was on the line the minute he got drafted. And he had to prove himself, and he cracked under the pressure. Because mentally, he wasn't ready for the game. And that's what a lot of people need to understand going into the pros, that you need to accept, I'm not ready yet, and I need to learn.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? There's no shame in taking a step back and say, I need to learn. I need to be better. Whether it's in football or in life in general, that is something where it's like, we as a society just be like, hey, I'm not ready for this. I need to be ready. I need to take a step back, and I need to learn in order to be a better version of myself to go forward. And I think that, if a lot of college players, have that mentality when it comes into the league, they'll find themselves not only in the right position, but in the right position to learn and succeed.
I agree 100%.
So I also just timestamped just this as like development. so
That's fine.
so this will be its own like, little. I mean, this is something that you and I we were talking about earlier today, and I'm glad we got to talk about it more.
Well, it's easy to talk about in a league like this now because of how many young, underdeveloped quarterbacks are at the helm of teams that are ready to win. And it runs down the list. It's rampant in the league right now with these young quarterbacks that were unfortunate enough to not have a chance early on in their careers.
Yeah, and let's be honest too. Getting back to the Dolphins, right? Before we move on to the next game, I'll just go back to the Dolphins, right?
Mm-hmm.
For teams that want to have like a superstar quarterback, right? What that skill gap from what they are, right? They are one of one, right? On top. Your QB2 is going to be a lot that gap is going to be very different. So let me be in. Should the offense be so drastically different from Tua at the helm to Skylar Thompson at the helm? Realistic, like ideally, no, it shouldn't be that drastic because it's the same playbook, right? But because of just the development of players, the development of Tua, because Tua stayed in college, right? He developed and became who he is, and how his skills are good. Skylar Thompson comes in. It's like since coming into the league, he's been a backup, and it's like he has not had the reps to develop into a even competent quarterback where it's like that offense could still operate under him. Now, am I saying that the Dolphins are going to go scoreless the next couple of weeks without him? No, but I would not expect 30-point games from the Dolphins in these next couple games. I mean, they could show me up right now and say drop 30 on the fucking Seahawks this week, right? But the offense is going to look very different from Tua at the helm to Skylar Thompson at the helm, and it really comes into preparation of the game. They have prepared Tua for obviously as long as they have, obviously when he's on the field, but with Skylar, he's not as prepared as Tua would be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I see what you're getting at, and I have to agree with you. Again, it just comes from development and preparation as a quarterback number one, and a quarterback number two. You run the scout, you run the practices, but at the end of the day, you don't get the live reps that you need. Like you were saying, you don't get those live reps. So if you get caught in the purgatory of being a career backup, you may never get those reps unless you really prove yourself or something happens during live reps that forces the hand to put you in.
Yeah. Exactly. So CP, before we move on, any final thoughts on like development or the Dolphins, the Seahawks? Because we spent a good couple chunk of time on that.
Almost an hour on one game in development.
I love it.
No, I got really no final thoughts except that this game is going to be a lot slower than originally anticipated because of the absence of Tua.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. But hey, it will still be a fun game to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on to the second game that we wanted to talk about. No, I did not pick this game initially, but we're going to talk about that regardless. It's the Ravens going to the Cowboys. So, CP, mind if I start us off for this one?
Go for it.
Oh, man. Fuck, we're 0-2. God damn it. Obviously, against the Chiefs, right? Didn't really think that we had that one. But we should have won this game against the Raiders. And we did. It upsets me because we did a lot of things right and yet still lost and still did a lot of things wrong at the same time. Marlon Humphrey starting to concern me a little bit in the secondary. It looked like John Harbaugh had the plan, had the game plan, and he said it to all the announcers too. He's like, "We want to eliminate 17. We want to eliminate Devontae." Well, you didn't do that. Devontae had his way in the second half of the whole game. Our defense does not look as tight as it did last year, because John Harbaugh was it has had was it nine in the last, I think, 5 seasons, has had 9 games where we led in the last 10 minutes by 10 in the last 10 minutes of a game and still lost. That is that's a pattern. That is something where we are giving up leads late in games, and this is something that I remember 2 years ago we had this, and it was just appalling to see. And I hope that this is not the same as 2 years ago, because holy shit, this is going to be a long fucking season. But I will say, against the Cowboys, they are going to be a formidable foe. I did notice something about the Cowboys looking at that game against the Saints. Now, Cowboys were heavy favorites into this game, but Cowboys are really predictable in the sense where it's like they're going to pass to throw ratio is like 80-20. They want Dak throwing the ball. Like, Jerry wants to see fucking Dak slinging it, right? And obviously, CeeDee Lamb is going to be catching and everything like that. But Dak, he's playing not his best ball. His feet are unsettling. He's not settling his feet in for throws. And so he's overthrowing, he's underthrowing, he's throwing back passes. He's not keeping the pocket clean. The offensive line, he's had the luxury of a great offensive line over the years, and obviously as time has gone on, all those players have moved on, and you have a new offensive line. Obviously, the pocket's not going to be as clean as it was a couple years ago. And so he's, seeing the pressure, and he's not settling his feet. His eyes are just all over the place, and it's just, you could see it. You can really see it. But I think the big story is the Saints put up 44 on the Cowboys defense, right? And the Saints had a very simple game plan. Derek Carr, okay. Micah Parsons is going to be on your right side. Do everything on the left side.
And they
did. And they did it. And they were fine. Like, literally, I want to say 70% of their running plays were to the left side. That's how you eliminate Micah Parsons. Like, he's going to be on your right. Okay, do everything left. And that worked. Like, I'm watching these highlights. I'm watching this game. I'm like, it's to the left. And they kept doing it. And they kept doing it until not. So that Cowboys defense, and it also looks to me, and I don't really know, I'll have to see with this game, their defense is not really that fast. They don't
not anymore. They seemed a lot faster.
They're because it seems that there's just a lot. I mean, granted, Alvin Kamara is a fast dude, right? But like, everyone was smoking them. Even Derek Carr was able to like run it a couple times and get some yards. And I'm like, this Cowboys defense isn't really fast. And when the big play happens, a lot of defensemen I saw just kind of peel back a little bit. Like, once Shaheed got that ball, the safety could have fought him, right? But he just kind of let it happen. He just kind of let the touchdown he just peeled off, right? Had his hands, tucked in there, and that was it. So defensively, the Cowboys do not look as tight defensively, and neither do the Ravens. So I think defensively, this is going to be a little bit more of an offensive game. Dak throwing to Lamar and Henry running it. I am happy that we did give Derrick Henry more touches. He was 18 for 87 and 1 touchdown against the Raiders. We need more, though. The man needs to be touching the ball at least 20 to 25 times a game. At least. But I think this is a really good matchup for both teams because they kind of need to get it right. Obviously, the Ravens, they can't fall to 0-3. That'd be very bad if they do. Cowboys, if they get 1-2 and kind of slip up a little bit, I mean, they have a little grace period in their division, but I mean, the Eagles are there. The Eagles, the Seahawks, the 49ers, the NFC South, other than the Panthers, seem to have arrived as well. So the NFC is going to be very tight this year, and I would Cowboys fans would not want to lose a game of this magnitude. I know they're both AFC and NFC teams. It's one of each conference, but it's kind of a must-win for both teams going into this week.
Yeah, must-win really is an understatement for both teams. Number one, the Cowboys don't want to lose 2 in a row at home. Definitely don't want that.
Oh no, Jerry's going to be upset.
And the Ravens cannot fall to 0-3. But the Saints gave you the formula on how to beat that defense.
Mm-hmm.
Give the ball to your running back and run downhill.
Do it on the left side too.
Do it on the side that Micah Parsons is not on. And I feel like you and I mutually feel the speed of the Cowboys has slowed since last year and the year prior because of the silent absence of Leighton Vander Esch.
Mm.
Remember, he was that second level behind Micah Parsons prior to leaving due to neck injury.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe his absence is actually being felt on that Dallas defense. Mm-hmm. He may not have been the caliber of linebacker that people would consider elite.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to being a defensive unit, he was a focal point on that defense.
Yeah.
The Ravens, when it comes to that run game, there should be no reason why Derrick Henry should not be able to run all over them without a second level.
Yeah.
But we've spoken about it to nauseum what his kryptonite is.
Mm-hmm.
Meeting him with contact. And if there's
at the line of scrimmage.
At the line of scrimmage. And if there's one thing the Cowboys defense is unbelievable at, it's stuffing gaps and ripping into holes and meeting contact at the line of scrimmage and forcing second chance effort for second chance yards.
Mm-hmm.
And if they meet Derrick Henry at the line of scrimmage, it's going to be a stalemate. 8 times out of 10. When you see Derrick Henry go for a second chance opportunity, it's very rare.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unfortunate because of how great a running back Derrick Henry is. That is what sets him against a lot of the elite running backs as well.
Yeah. He's a very different running back to Alvin Kamara, right? Alvin Kamara, he's that dual threat. He's still got that speed too, which is ridiculous as well.
Ridiculous how fast he is.
But Derrick Henry, again, he's the power back, but like once he gets into that secondary, he's absolutely lethal. We did see the stiff arm last week. It was very nice to see. I like that. But this is going to be tough for him too. And I think that what's going to require the Ravens to beat the Cowboys is we have to be creative in our running game. We can't be predictable. We can't have Derrick Henry on the field, and that's going to be a run play. Take him off the field, and Justice Hill's in, and Justice Hill's going to be in, and then we're throwing the ball. Because it's too predictable. We saw that in the Chiefs game. It was a little bit better in the Raiders game, but again, when Justice Hill's on the field, I know we're not running it. And the defense knows that too.
Right. That's not a well-kept secret.
So we need more read option. We need more play action. I think we need to open up that play action book a little bit more, and I think that this is the game to do so. Because when it comes to speed, I think Zay Flowers is faster than anyone in that secondary.
By far.
I think Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews, if they can go against those linebackers and really bump uglies with them, or not bump uglies, but you know what I mean. Well, not that. Whoa. They're gonna be bumping, you know what I mean. But fucking
Jesus.
No. But I think that. But what's really going to set this game apart is how creative on offense are we willing to be. And again, Lamar can throw it, Lamar can, run it, and we're going to go as far as Lamar takes us in the season and in the playoffs, right? And obviously, he's not without his faults, right? He's, had games where he just does not played well. And for instance, like last week against the Raiders, when it's 23-23 and you have time left on the clock to kind of get in field goal range, you take a massive sack by Max Crosby and then give them short field, and then they take 20 yards, and then they're in field goal range. Win the game. Can't be doing that. Can't do that. But, you know, we both teams have a certain philosophy. By air, by sea, well, or by air, by land. We're going to be by land, they're going to be by air, and it's going to be. I just hope that for this game's sake, that it's a close game, because I think that obviously the NFL networks, they like the Cowboys, and they fit them in that 4 o'clock slot, right? But Ravens and Cowboys, I think so far, because of how these teams have struggled, not only so far this season, but also in the recent years past, it's a good matchup for one another. But it's early on in the season. Let's get it right. If whoever loses this game, you got a lot of ground to cover. Whoever it is like, you got a lot of ground to cover. If you win, you get back on track, right? Ravens, it's not easy because after the Cowboys, we have the Bills. Sunday night primetime. So that ain't going to be easy. Cowboys, I think they have the Giants coming up soon. So they get a freebie.
Right. They get a pass after this week.
Yeah. So but this week, let's see who gets it right.
This game should definitely be interesting overall.
Man, I'm
both
excited.
teams have so much to lose. 0-3 and 1-2 are they hurt just as much.
Yeah, man.
You know what I mean? They hurt all the same, especially being in the respective conferences.
It's funny. What was it? Marcus Williams, former Saints safety, now on the Ravens, went to Marlon Humphrey and he said, "Hey, you remember when we went 0-2 and won 10 straight? So it could happen, but
hey,
we are not that team. We are not that team right now.
That was a different team.
That's a different team. That's a Saints team led by Drew Brees. That's a very, very different team. But I like the optimism. I like that, the camaraderie and the teamwork where it's like, hey, we just got to take it 1 week at a time."
Right. So we'll see what happens. Should be a fun game.
It should be a great game. So with that being said, those are the two games that we wanted to talk about this upcoming week. Let's keep an eye on both of them. I think both should be a great game, great games. So Chris Palmer, are you ready to make some picks?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's make some picks. Let's make some picks, baby. So let's start with the Thursday night primetime game, the New England Patriots coming to New York to play the Jets. Who you got?
Give me the Patriots. I like what Gerard Mayo's doing with this Patriots team, and Aaron Rodgers has been struggling. I think he continues to struggle.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Jets. Just something, man. Just I wanna see it.
Get that stink out of your nose.
Sorry, I had to blow my nose, but yeah. I'm gonna take the Jets just because.
Right.
Why the fuck not? So let's see what they got. Let's move to Cleveland. The New York Giants play the Cleveland Browns.
Give me Cleveland. This should be an easy rollover win for them.
Yeah. I'm gonna take Cleveland as well. I think they just stack up a little bit better than the Giants. Okay, let's move down south to where the Philadelphia Eagles play the New Orleans Saints. This should be a very interesting game.
New Orleans at home? Give me New Orleans. Let's go for a third.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Saints as well, man. Like, let's ride that hot hand. Let's see what they got.
Feed the hot hand, man.
Absolutely. I mean, hell, speaking of feeding the hot hand, we got 2-0 teams coming to meet each other with the Houston Texans and the Minnesota Vikings. Ooh, who would have thought? Chris Palmer, who you got?
In Minnesota?
In Minnesota.
I'm kind of smelling upset here. Give me Minnesota.
Ooh.
But it's going to be close.
I really like this game, and I kind of was looking at this one. I was like, I kind of want to speak this one, but man, These two teams match up so well against each other. This is going to be so close. This is going to be a great game. I'm going to take Houston. I just trust them a little bit more than Minnesota right now.
That's
But
fair. I kind of smell upset here. It's just what
it,
it is.
it could be. It could be. But this is going to be a fantastic game. Let's move down south to where the Denver Broncos play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm gonna go with Baker and the Bucks, man. Ride that hot hand. Baker's playing some great football. But I think that this will be a little closer than you think because Sean Payton, he knows that division. He knows how to game plan for Todd Bowles and them. So this might be a little close for comfort, but I think Baker wins it in the end.
Yeah, I think Tampa's going to win this one too, but I have to agree with you. I think Denver's one of those teams not to be trifled with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's move to Tennessee, where the Green Bay Packers take on the Tennessee Titans. Chris Palmer, who you got for this one?
I mean, Green Bay. I want to see Malik Willis go for his second win.
I'm gonna take Tennessee on this one. If this was Jordan Love at the helm, I would say Green Bay. But Malik, I'm glad he got the win, but it's only going to get harder from here on out because now
game.
it is a revenge game, but it's not against Vrabel. It's against Callahan, so it's just against the organization. So, you're right, CP. I didn't even realize it was a revenge game for Malik. So, I'll take the Titans though.
Okay.
Chicago Bears and Indianapolis Colts. Who you got for this one, CP?
Give me the Colts. I think the Colts turn this one around.
I like it. Yeah, I'm gonna take the Colts too. Colts are 0-2, but they should be better than 0-2. I mean,
still
there's
more impressive.
There's still
the Bears.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they're a little bit more impressive than the Bears. I think that they should be able to score points pretty easily against this Bears team, but we'll see. Anthony Richardson and Caleb Williams. This will be an interesting matchup. Let's move on to the Chargers coming to Pittsburgh to play the Steelers, baby. Who you got?
Feed the hot hand, man. We're going 3-0.
Ooh.
Should be a good matchup, though. Mike Tomlin versus Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, I think that's going to be really good. That's tough. Give me the Chargers. I'll take the Chargers. I think this is going to be a really close matchup. But man, that's going to be a slugfest.
That's going to be a prize fight. I almost wanted to talk this game.
I know, right? I mean, but don't worry, we'll talk Steelers and Chargers at some other time too. But man, this is another really good game too. Okay, first game that we spoke: Miami Dolphins and Seattle Seahawks.
In Seattle, I'm going to have to go with Seattle. It looks like a downward descent for Miami for the next couple weeks, unfortunately, and it starts in Seattle.
Yeah, it's going to be rough. Rough couple weeks. I'm going to go Seattle as well. No matter who you are, if you're Skylar Thompson or Patrick Mahomes, it is hard to play in Seattle. So correct. I'm gonna go with the Seahawks, going 3-0. Okay. Oh man, we should have talked this one: the Carolina Panthers and the Raiders, bro. Who you got?
Give me the Raiders in Vegas. Carolina and the Giants are going to be competing for the number one overall, and each of them are going to probably go winless until the final week of the season.
You know, it's so crazy because I see online of just all the first round picks that the Panthers gave up and draft capital and players and all for
Bryce Young.
And it's like, it's not fair to him, but like, goddamn, man, that's
just 2 games.
It's horrible. I'm taking the Raiders as well. Okay. San Francisco 49ers and Los Angeles Rams. Ooh. This is going to be really, really good. I'm going to take San Fran on this one. Despite their injuries, Kyle Shanahan typically gets the better of Sean McVay. Um, Sean McVay, obviously, has had more success as a head coach, but like when it comes to these matchups, Kyle Shanahan schemes up his guys very well to play against the Rams. So I'm going to go 49ers.
It's unfortunate that both of these teams are injury ridden. The Rams have no Puka Nacua, they have no Cooper Kupp. San Francisco has no George Kittle, has no Debo. So it's really going to come down to the most complete team wins, and I trust Matt Stafford more. I trust Matt Stafford to do more with less because Brock Purdy with less is uncharted territory. So you're going to have to give me the Rams on this one.
Ooh. You know what? I like it, though. It's, let's see what you got with who you have.
It's uncharted territory.
It's
totally.
uncharted territory, and next man up.
Correct.
Okay. Let's move on to Arizona, where the Lions played the Arizona Cardinals. Ooh. Who you got?
This could be a sleeper cell game, man. This could be turned into a prize fight. Give me Detroit, but my eyes on Arizona. They seem like they're about to have some fun.
I'm gonna go Detroit as well. Part of me kind of wanted to go Arizona because their skill guys have the slight advantage over that Lions secondary, but
not by much.
Not by much, but I trust Dan Campbell, and I trust Dan Campbell and the Lions. But let's keep an eye on this one. This is going to be an interesting one. It could get out of hand very quickly if the Lions are not prepared properly. This could get very ugly, and it could be a very high scoring game. But I'll take Detroit to win it.
Okay.
Okay. Going to Jerry World. Baltimore Ravens versus Dallas Cowboys. Of course, I'm taking my Ravens, but I'll be honest, I'm very nervous about this one. I'm very, very nervous. But I'm going to take the Ravens. I trust them. Lamar 20-1 against NFC opponents. Who you got, CP?
This one's hard, man. It's hard.
I won't blame you if you take the Cowboys.
It's hard to go against Dallas losing twice at home in a row.
I know.
Especially early in the year. Give me Baltimore because I have more respect for the Baltimore franchise than I do the Dallas franchise. But, god damn it. Please just do it.
This is a must-win for the Ravens. And
it's a must-win for both teams.
It's a must-win for both, but I obviously, again, as a Ravens fan,
Ravens can't fall 0-3.
We need this. We absolutely need this game. Sunday night prime time game. The Kansas City Chiefs going to play Kirk Cousins and the Atlanta Falcons. Man, the schedule makers did the Falcons no favors. 2 primetime games in the first 3 weeks. Absolutely brutal. But if this is anything like the Falcons of week 2, maybe this is going to be a good game. Who you got, CP?
You're going to hate me for this.
No, I won't.
I'm fucking feeling upset here again.
Go for it.
Because what's the Achilles heel of that Kansas City defense? They give up a ton of yards. A ton of yards.
Mm-hmm.
The issue is usually the opposing offense not being able to finish in the red zone. Kirk Cousins is lights out in the red zone over his career. So that isn't an issue. His problem is playing in primetime. I kind of sense an upset here. You're going to have to give me the Falcons.
I respect it, man. And I think if that was a statement win over Philly last week, then this should be a really
too.
Oh, man, this should be a really good game. I'm going to take the Chiefs. They're the Chiefs, man. It's really hard to go against them, but I hope Atlanta comes away. I hope they come away with the win and can be a little scrappy in the process. That'd be fun. That'd be a lot of fun.
Fun little game to watch, right?
Yeah, Sunday night primetime, baby. So we actually have 2 Monday night games this week. We have a double header. So let's start with Jacksonville and Buffalo. This this is a good one too. Uh, I'm gonna go Buffalo on here. It seems that despite losing a lot of players in the offseason, Josh Allen still likes to score points. So some things never change. But I'll take the Bills.
Yeah, you're gonna have to give me the Bills too, because although Trevor Lawrence signed that massive deal, he doesn't really persuade me to believe that he can bring this team anywhere
Mm-hmm.
at this point in time.
Yeah, it's tough too because it's like personally I like Trevor Lawrence. I think he's a great quarterback, but this is one of those years where it's like you at this point he has no reason to not be great, right? He has a young offensive talent around him. He has a proven head coach. They have signed a lot of key defensive players, and obviously he's coming off an injury. He should be, healthy as he can be. But when it comes to the Jags and it comes to better competition, they don't always step up into playing that better competition. So it's tough. But I mean, they have come away with some really good games before. They've beaten the Ravens a couple times. I got to give them credit for that. They've last year they played the Chiefs, played it very close in the regular season. The year before, in the divisional round, one possession game, it was solid. But
close only gets you so far.
exactly,
Sooner or later, you have to break through that wall, or it's going to be you're not going to get there. And then you
exactly.
start going into the same conversation as the Cowboys. You're good, you're just not good enough.
Yep, exactly. Right on, nail right on the head. Okay, so we're both going Buffalo that game. Second Monday night game. Excuse me. Washington comes to Cincinnati to play the Bengals. Who
It's going to
you
be
got?
good. It's going to be good watching the Bengals go 0-3. It's going to feel good watching Dayton Daniels burn the Bengals.
You going Washington?
Fuck the Bengals.
I mean, you're absolutely right. Fuck the Bengals. I'm gonna pick them to win though, but fuck the Bengals.
No, no, no. I want to see them go 0-3 and drop to the bottom of the division if you fucking win a game.
Well, we gotta fucking do our job first. So you don't think I don't want this, CP? I would never wish 0-2 upon my worst enemy.
But your worst enemy is the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, okay, I would actually wish them to go 0-2.
Yeah,
Actually, I
right.
wish them to go 0-3, but I'll take Joe Burrow and the Bengals. I think they get right this game.
I respect it.
Okay. Oh, awesome. Awesome. So that is our week 3 picks. Oh, man. And next week, we are looking to have our first guest of the season. His name is Mike Gunther. He's one of our boys. He's a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, and we look forward to having you on, Mike. But CP, close us out, baby. Close us out.
Well, there you have it, guys. There's our picks for the week. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe. If you are looking to get on for an interview, the next couple weeks are booked. I believe we are booked from next week to about week 8.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have 1 or 2 games in the back end of the season filled. But other than that, second half of the season is more or less open. So please either message myself or John. And we'll definitely look into getting you on for a conversation. Until then, here's to another week.